just finished watching the second episode of season 4 of The Flash. My general impression, I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was fun and charming, but it felt a little bit more like a filler episode that existed more to kind of progress the character relationships and show us where they're at, as well as set up the big bad for the season, rather than a super compelling episode in and of itself. Also, this episode kind of confirmed my fears about the way they handled last season's finale and the resolution in this season, that we're just kind of moving past that whole story arc for the most part after the first episode, and it just kind of has relational dynamic issues moving forward. But before I go into my full thoughts on it, be sure to put your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your kind of take on this episode. Did you feel like it was filler? Did you feel like it was a strong, fun episode in and of itself? And what do you think about how they use the dynamic of Barry and the Speed Force, all that fun stuff, and resolving it pretty quickly in the season? Let me know down below. Also, I'm thinking about doing a live stream right after the episode airs, broadcast in Central Time, but I was a little bit nervous about doing this week because last week no one had watched it live, so they joined in and it was a little bit awkward. So if you'd be interested and if you watch it live, tell me down below in the comment section, and perhaps I'll do that next week. All right, as for the episode itself, let's talk about the good stuff about it. Probably the biggest positive I have about this episode is that it was just set up to be fun. And there's tension in it, there's dynamics in it, there's a lot of different elements to it that could be kind of heavier type material, but the way they handled it was all in a fun, jokey type manner. So there's a lot of kind of jokes, pop culture references throughout it. So right from the get-go, you've got Barry doing the risky business thing, and you're seeing him trying to get back into normal life, making jokes about Game of Thrones. So all that stuff's types of good. And as the episode progresses, just, there will be spoilers, there's tension between him and Iris. He's not fully aware of it. Iris is holding a lot of resentment about what he did at the end of last season. And so she recommends going to couples therapy. And so they find a way to kind of pull out some heavy character issues and stuff that could be really heavy, is really heavy, but in a fun, jokey manner, so we can actually address the heavy emotion. But not last season, it felt like it just kind of weighed down so heavily on some of the Iris is gonna die, I gotta save her, what can I do? It got so heavy last season that it kind of sucks some of the joy and the fun out of it. This episode handled some of those heavy emotions, but in a way that was still fun, jokey, that fit the kind of tone of this show that I like when it's fun. Arrow, I kind of want that one to be a little bit more brooding. This one, I want to be the fun show, and this episode handled that well. Also, I don't mind a Freak of the Week episode from time to time with some wacky villain with superpowers that don't make any sense. We'll get into that in just a moment. But just the idea that there's a bad guy that comes to town that has some sort of motive, those are just kind of fun, consumable type episodes, and that's kind of what this one was. And for a fun, consumable type episode, they found a way to kind of make it a little bit more interesting. So they got this new suit. They kind of did the Spider-Man Homecoming thing. I don't, in the writing process, certainly Spider-Man Homecoming, they'd written the script before Spider-Man Homecoming came out, but the idea that there's a new suit that's got all sorts of gizmos and gadgets in it, and it gets him in trouble, that's a fun take, a little bit clever twist on things. Once again, a little bit contrived, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But it was fun, like seeing him run around and the suit suddenly inflates and all the other stuff they did with it. It was interesting, fun. And also in the action and what he did with it, they did interesting new things. So whether that's tearing a car apart, that's kind of fun, different. I don't think we've done something like that. And there's an explosion. He catches the shrapnel from the grenade. And then in our final sequence, he's battling the guy. And it's not just him punching a speedster or out doing stuff like that. It's him trying to figure out his weird, quirky suit type thing. So a lot of things are just kind of fun is the key word. And like I said, that's a core value for me when it comes to this show. That's the good. Let's move on to the bad. And as I kind of said in my intro, it felt like an episode that they knew. It's a plot where we need to introduce these new metahumans. So, we got a guy that's got binary code infused in his DNA. That doesn't really make any sense. It's just jumbo scientific babble or computer code babble. But okay, well, we'll give him that. We'll give him some power so he can control things because binary codes infused in his DNA. And, these are typical Freak of the Week type things. We've been doing this for 20 years on CW type shows. And I mean, they're fun enough, but they're kind of passable. And so the main plot of this one it really just existed as like, oh, what's some sort of guy we can have? And then at the end of it, we realize, oh, the main bad guy wants to set him up and put him in a certain place. We're learning there's new metahumans that got him from our main bad guy of the season who's strategizing and putting the pieces in place for his big master plan. And he's trying to find the rest of the metahumans. So really, this main plot existed just to have some fun with the new suit sort of idea and set up this in sequence. The main conflict of the episode, however, that was more interesting, that progresses kind of the story, is that a bunch of stuff with relationships, whether that's Barry and Iris, and we need to get out there that Iris has issues with Barry because of him deciding to leave, or whether that's Cisco and Gypsy in his relation. We're doing all these relational type things moving forward, whereas the main plot of it just existed to give us a small piece of information about what our main villain is working towards. So that's why it feels a little bit like a filler episode in the way it functioned with things. Now, big picture bad of this episode, big picture, not the episode in of itself, but what we learned about where the season's going in general from this episode. The only carryover from the first episode and the finale of last season is that Barry and Iris have relational problems, which is the same stuff they did last season, where Barry screws up the timeline. And the big thing that comes out of that is that people are mad at Barry, the relational conflict, for the rest of the season because genders of kids swapping and other people's family members dying and things like that because he screwed with the timeline. So it's all relational conflict that changed rather than that season finale into the intro actually being the story of the next season. And that's such a weird way to use these big season finale. We're going to turn the whole thing upside down. Barry changed the timeline. Barry's going into the Speed Force and sacrificing himself. What does that mean? Well, it means that people are going to be mad at him the next season because because of the way he made his decisions, and he wasn't thinking about how it would affect other people. Same exact thing. Like, the big way it factors out is, well, Barry didn't think about how his actions affect other people. It's odd. Like, the idea that Barry's in the Speed Force and so they have to fight crime on their own, there's storytelling in that give Kid Flash the time to shine. I don't think that the Wally character and the actor playing him have the gravitas to lead a show, but there's stuff you could do with that. And maybe you have Barry in the Speed Force, in Speed Force prison, and you have some sort of plot line in there. You do something with that. Maybe you add flashbacks into this show for a few episodes showing Barry at sort of different points in time. Like, there's things that you could do with it that I feel like they just wasted some opportunity in the way they handled it. Like, I just don't understand this idea of we have to have a big, enormous, huge finale that's a big twist, and then we'll resolve it in the first episode. That is so strange to me. So much wasted storytelling potential, and I think the key thing is it's overly safe. Like, we want to do something to shock you. But we don't actually want to shock our show. We don't actually want to turn the whole show upside down. So we'll resolve it really quick. That's such weird. I keep saying that. I keep saying it's so weird because I keep thinking about it going, why would you do that? Why would you waste the storytelling potential, the fun places you could have gone with this, and you just didn't? You treated it like any sort of mid-season, end of episode, whoa type moment. And these Arrowverse shows love to do these kind of whoa type moments frequently on their episodes. So that's kind of my take on the episode, as well as in general what this means. I liked the episode. I thought it was fun. Existed more to kind of progress some relationships rather than just kind of tell this super interesting story about a villain. And that's okay from time to time. But really, my biggest frustration here is it confirms that they're kind of wasting the finale twist. That's my take on it. How about you? Tell me down below, what did you think about it in general as an episode, as a standalone, this week's episode, as well as what it means in terms of the general idea of this season? Are you as annoyed as I am with this sort of thing? Or are you kind of like, whatever? Let me know down below. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos. But the key thing is I don't want to just talk about movies, TVs, ranking videos. I want to talk about them with you, so join me in the comments section. Give me your thoughts on the episode, the season. Hey, just go ahead and ask me a question. And as always, thank you so much for watching.